Welcome back to the channel Break from Fear with Teri Pickens, a place where we provide an education about the psychology of living in survival mode. 20 years ago, I had a prophetic, telepathic download from the quantum field. It lasted 2 years, and when it was done and over, I knew everything about survival mode. I was able, after many years, to extract myself from the mode using both behavioral and nervous system reorganization. Just to give you a reminder, we entered that mode when our premature brain became frozen in a protective posture because we were not protected from our fears. Our brains in that posture is always scanning for threats or for danger, which can trigger our anxiety, and everything else grows out of that. Living in this mode impacts every area of your life, from your ability to focus, your ability to trust, believe. Thus, 20 years later, I'm still trying to convince the powers that be of this truth of survival mode, and I will continue to do so. Friends, this is not my perspective. I am only the messenger. In today's video, we're looking at morality and the survival mode effect or glitch. You're going to learn why long-term cortisol exposure shrinks the prefrontal cortex, which is our brake pedal, and our empathy circuits are also gets shrunken with long-term cortisol exposure. That erodes moral braking for any kind of violence. How survival mode reads social shame as physical threat. And lastly, how chronic stress lowers our trigger threshold. Friends, morality may feel like a choice. Do you think it's a choice? No, when we are under stress, it's just plain biology. If you stay until the end of the video, I will give some solutions and a secret symptom of survival mode. So everyone debates right and wrong, but nobody talks about how stress and biology hijacks moral decisions. Why do good people do shady things when they're burnt out? Survival mode doesn't care about ethics. It cares about one thing: staying alive. Let's look at some crazy headlines. Mom steals baby formula, is arrested. The survival mode link is the brain turns into a scarcity brain. The prefrontal cortex, which is the brakes, goes offline. Loss aversion spikes. Theft leads to a character flaw when your kids are starving. CEO lies about earnings and gets bonus. The survival mode link: chronic stress plus power can equal moral disengagement. And of course, high cortisol levels shrinks empathy circuits. Bystander films a crime instead of helping. The survival mode link is a freeze response. The amygdala flags danger. This causes less compassion when we're feeling overwhelmed. Dad fights at kids' game. It goes viral on TikTok. The survival link: threat detection is in overdrive. Survival mode reads any social shame as physical threat. We all think we would never fill in the blank, but here's what survival mode does to your brain. It activates cortisol, the amygdala is active, the prefrontal cortex changes. Morality isn't just about choice, folks. It's biology under pressure. So why do good parents snap under pressure? Have meltdowns, yelling, not just the worst case scenarios? It can be caused by extreme dysregulation, psychosis, postpartum issues, severe chronic threats. This level of stress is survival mode at its most broken versus normal stress. This is how far our brain can break under pressure. Can trauma make love go offline? At the absolute extreme, chronic survival mode plus untreated psychosis can lead to headlines we can't even say out loud or even begin to imagine. When the threat brain takes over, folks, survival mode causes the amygdala to hijack. Then you have our prefrontal cortex goes dim. Our impulse control drops, whether the target is a child or an adult. Chronic stress causes long-term cortisol exposure, shrinks the prefrontal cortex and the empathy circuits. All of this erodes moral break-in for any kind of violence. Any scarcity threat states make people overvalue immediate survival and undervalue future consequences. Same wiring, same glitch. Thus, people do an action or a crime and not think of the consequence, time in jail or even the death penalty. It is only different with social barriers. Certain triggers like war and self-defense, faith and parental bonding, because they provide a massive extra break that has to fail first before the amygdala takes over. Survival mode explains why people hurt others when threatened. At the extreme edge, when stress plus illness plus isolation piles up, it can even override the brain's strongest protections. But most of us experience it as smaller moral slips almost on a regular basis, like the white lie, the theft, the bystander freeze. Friends, morality feels like a choice, but under stress, it is plain biology. Let's look at some more headlines. Road rage incident ends in shooting. It's an amygdala hijack again. Perceived threat 200 milliseconds faster than logic. The prefrontal cortex goes offline, so you react before you even think. Chronic stress lowers the trigger threshold. Your brain can't tell the difference between a gun and a guy cutting you off in traffic when it's in survival mode. Let's look at another one. Employee attacks boss after layoff. The survival mode link is the loss aversion plus shame. A job loss reads as existential threat. So cortisol spikes, shuts down empathy circuits, amplifies the fight response. Survival mode coded as a status loss, which means death. To a stress brain, losing your job isn't about money. It's about survival, and survival mode does not negotiate. Most of us won't attack our boss, but we all know the version where stress makes us mean, reckless, or numb. That's the same system, just turned down. Survival mode doesn't do resumes. It doesn't do 2-week notices. It does Eliminate the threat now, quote unquote. Morality only gets a vote after your brain thinks that you are safe. Another headline: soldiers commit war crime. Survival link: this is moral disengagement. Chronic threat plus in-group or out-group framing can literally dampen the insula, which is the empathy part that feels others' pain. Exhaustion plus fear plus moral breaks fail. Put any brain under enough threat, folks, long enough, and it stops seeing people as people. It just sees quote unquote threats. Most of us won't see a battlefield, but we all know the smaller version when stress makes us dehumanize the customer service rep, the ex, the guy with the different skin color or a different bumper sticker. Same system, different scale. Survival mode doesn't care if it's a gun or a Honda Civic. It only cares that you win right now. Morality shows up later, but only if you survive. Friends, most of us won't pull a trigger, but we all live in the same system. That is why, sleep deprived, you snap at your spouse or your family. So in road rage, the amygdala screams threat, quote unquote, in 200 milliseconds. The prefrontal cortex would normally say, chill out, it's just traffic. But right now it's asleep. The result? You react. You do not decide, you simply react. Just a reminder, the prefrontal cortex is the brain's brake pedal. It controls impulse, long-term thinking, empathy, decision-making, and it is logical. It is not emotional. What survival mode does to it: chronic stress plus high cortisol levels equals prefrontal cortex literally goes offline. Blood flow drops. It gets quieter. Meanwhile, your amygdala, that threat detector, gets louder and faster. Survival mode shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles morality, and it hands the wheels over to guess who? Your amygdala, going after that threat. That's why good people do shady things when they're burnt out or under threat. It's wild how much evil, quote unquote, is just plain biology under pressure. Survival mode doesn't do Geneva Convention. It does my squad lives, they don't, quote unquote. Morality isn't gone. It's just been overruled by a brain that thinks it's dying. You watch the news all the time and you think, I would never. I'm a good person. But your brain disagrees. The whole thesis at Break from Fear is that people aren't broken. You aren't broken. Your nervous system is broken. Break that cycle. Understand how the system works. Follow us at Break from Fear. Let's look at some solutions. The first solution I mention in every video: get out of survival mode. I tell you how to do it in each video. The second solution for morality, which may surprise some of you, is spirituality or religion. This can be a brake pedal like the prefrontal cortex or a gas pedal, so it could go either way. Religion or spirituality doesn't override biology, folks, but it changes the inputs your survival system reacts to. It can strengthen the brake pedal, the prefrontal cortex, given nervous system regulation. It can give a moral identity. When this identity is deeply held, your brain fights harder to stay regulated. It gives a sense of community. Loneliness amps up survival mode. Belonging dials it down. I can cover this religious spirituality part of it in another video. Okay, we're at the end of the video, and I'm giving a quick quiz. The question, which shuts down first under stress? A, logic, B, empathy, C, both. Drop your guess in the comment. You can find the answers in the video also. Be honest, what's your wartime rations moment? When did stress make you do something out of character? No judgment here. We're all human. I promise a secret symptom. You're walking into a supermarket and you hear footsteps behind you. The survival mode response is the amygdala senses a threat, and so you have to stop and turn around and see who's behind you, or some of you stop and let that person walk past you. I want you to go to the comment and tell me what's your experience with there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you next time. Bye now.